Well, hello and welcome. I'm going to wait just a second and then we'll get going. We're going to make some torch-fired enamel Easter egg pendants today. Let's see. Hi, Wanda. Yes, the replay is always available, so you can see it here in the group. If you go to the media section, and you'll be able to see that. Facebook is going to be changing everything in June, I believe. But you can always go to my YouTube channel and you can see all of the demos that I've done there as well. Hi, Jennifer. Okay, so we're going to get started here. Let's see here. I've shown you a few times in the group page. Hi, Gwen. Hi, Janet. I showed you a couple of times on the group page some of the pendants that I have made, and I've got one on here today. And let me move the camera down here. Hopefully I'm in the frame. Hi, Carol. All right. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so these are a few of the ones that I've done so far. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Debbie. Yeah, I've done these so far, and they're a lot of fun. There's lots of possibilities with them. I didn't have an egg-shaped pancake die. This is the one that I use. This is a Potter pancake die, and this is actually a teardrop. This is the 802. That's the number of the pancake, but I did ask at Potter People if they would consider making an egg set of pancake dies, and they are going to. So we just have to. Patty Tingstad is helping me with the measurements, and she's gonna. We spoke last night, and she's got the measurements, and she's gonna turn them into Potter USA, and they're gonna make us some egg-shaped pancake dies. This is okay, but I had to modify it just a bit at the top because it was a little bit too pointed. So I just cut some of that off, but I will show you that. Hi, Erin. Hi, Lynn. So yeah, I'm going to show you that and all the things and how we make the corrugated wire. It's a real fun process, but there's a lot that you can do with them. I just chose to do, I did some jump rings. I used some copper jump rings on here. And then this wire is just, this is 18 gauge solid copper wire. You have to have solid copper, otherwise it kind of like disintegrates. And then we used a tube ringer to make the crimps. And I'll show you how to do that as well. Hey, Wendy. So yeah, there's lots of fun. I used also some floral wafers. I'll go through all of that as we go through the steps for some decoration on some of these. These are the little floral wafers that melt in. They need to be really tiny. Uh, they're not like your regular Millefiori that you use in lamp working. These are much thinner, smaller pieces, and they work really well because they melt in fairly quickly. So we're going to do that, and I'll just show you how it's all done. Put these to the side. And so ahead of time, I cut a bunch of the copper discs that I need for the egg. Now, if you don't have a hydraulic press or, pancake dies and all that stuff, you can draw out an egg and cut it with metal shears. I used 20 gauge copper sheet for these eggs, but if I was going to cut them out by hand with shears, I would go up to 22 gauge, just because it's a little bit easier on your hands when you're cutting. So that's what I did. Hi, Judith. Hi, Mary. Great. We have a nice crowd here today. All right, so I'm going to tip the camera down and show you what I do to achieve these little eggs. Okay. First things first is making sure that you've got your egg shapes cut out, and the edges are going to be sharp, so you're going to want to sand those down a little bit all the way around the edges. If you have a belt sander, you can do it with that, or you can do it with the file. Just whatever you can smooth these edges with, because like I said, they are quite sharp and you don't want to cut yourself. Now I had to cut this, well, I chose to cut this tip down because I wanted it to look more like an egg than this teardrop. So I just cut off the very tip of the egg. And let's see here. Where's my Sharpie? There it is. So I just took a small amount off the top. And I just traced it. On the first one, I just kind of eyeballed it, of course. But I just traced that edge and then cut with my metal shears. Just round that out a little bit. And then, took a file and sanded these down. Now, I'm not going to do all of this, but you get the idea. You just sand this down and make it nice and smooth and make it more of an egg shape. I have a wet sander in my utility room that is hooked up to the laundry tubs, and so I can use that wheel, the sanding wheel, with water dripping on it, and it's really nice. Keeps your hands cool, keeps the piece cool, so you don't heat up the metal as you're sanding it down. Okay, so once you got your shapes all sanded and ready to go, then you need to punch the holes in them. And I like to use, when I do enameling, I like to use a larger hole here because I want to make sure the enamel doesn't fill in the hole. So I am using the 5/32 hole on my Euro Tool hole punch. I'm just going to eyeball, as I always do, where I'm going to put the hole. And a nice thing about torch firing, in the method that I'm going to be using, I'm actually going to be doing two different methods, but the immersion method is the first one that I'm going to use, and I'll explain all of that. I'm a little off center on that one. When I do a lot of, like my magnifying glasses, when I do a lot of hole making, I put my hole punch in one of these portable vices. It's a table vise. And show you that. I set that up here. It's easy to work with. And I put my hole punch inside the jaws of the vise, of the portable vise. And that way, it's a lot less stressful. I mean, it's not that it's stressful so much, but it keeps it nice and level, and you can get a little bit more torque this way. And I'm just going to, these 20 gauge are a little bit tough. Just break through that way and have my hole at the top. I'm off center. I'm always off center. A little bit, that's okay. Going to just repeat that with a few, get everything prepared so that I can just go from one to the next. Just like that. I've made so many holes in copper discs that you know, you just have to come up with a way that works for you. This is a little stiff, or else I'm becoming a weakling, which is also possible. Okay, and just one more to go here. So, like I said, I'm doing two different methods of torch firing, and I'm going to be doing the immersion method for the first couple of coats. By doing it that way, you get the top coat and the counter enamel done in a couple of dips. It's very easy. So I'm done with this. All right, so I'll set that to the side. And if you've seen any of my other enameling demos, I often use the immersion method. It depends on what I'm making, but I learned the immersion method from Barbara Lewis, and she is a wonderful teacher. And I learned so much through her with the immersion method. This is instant gratification at its finest, I think. You don't need a whole lot of stuff, but you're doing it a whole different way than on the tripod. I am going to be using this, but to start off, I'm going to do the immersion method. I'll show you what that means. You need these little skinny mandrels. These are stainless steel mandrels. I think they're 3/32. I'm pretty sure that's what they are. They could be 1/16 though. I'm very, very bad with fractions and math of any kind. So bear with me on that. Let me see if this fits in the 1/16 hole. That might be a good way to tell. Yes, it does. So these are 1/16 stainless steel mandrels that I'm using. And I keep a jar of water here because you need to quench these. These get really hot. They're not hot in your hand where you're holding them, but the tips where they've been in the fire, they get really hot. So I keep that to the side of me. I also keep a steel bench block by my side and a pair of utility tweezers. And I always have these on hand in case I drop something that's hot and I need to pick it up quickly. So that's a good way to get them, to retrieve them. I am, of course, getting ahead of myself as I usually do, but I am showing you some of the tools. But we need to discuss this crimped wire next. before I go on to the enameling part. The crimped wire is super, super easy. You need a tube ringer. If you've never seen one of these before, this is what a tube ringer is. It's corrugated. It's got two corrugated rollers on here. One has a little key attached to it here. And you feed your wire through this while turning the key, and the wire gets fed through and gets crimped in the process. Okay. I've had this for a number of years. I don't know why I initially bought it. It might have been for some sheet, for some real thin sheet metal that I wanted to stick through there. But I've since learned that you can put wire through there. It makes a nice effect. So I'm going to be using 18 gauge solid copper wire. Okay, just cut off a piece. They, I was looking on Amazon for the resources, to put out for available, to make them available to you. And they have the same one that I have here, and it's like $40 or something, which is quite expensive. But then they have some cheaper ones too, but I don't know how well the cheaper ones will work. But if it's just for copper wire, you might be able to get by with a lesser expensive tube ringer. These are also good for squeezing the toothpaste tubes, to push it all up. I initially had my first experience with these when I was dental assisting, and we used impression material that came in tubes, and we always use these to get get all of the impression material out of the tube. So I was real familiar with their usage for tubes, that kind of thing. But for wire, I really didn't have a clue. Okay, so let's see. Where do I get my solid copper wire? Usually through the Beadsmith or Eurotool. But both of those, I have accounts for it. You have to have an account to buy directly from them, but that's generally where I get a lot of my stuff. But I think you can get it on Amazon too. This is a different brand, but Artistic Wire has you have to get the bare copper, not natural. Natural looks like bare copper, but it has a coating on it. So you have to make sure that if you get artistic copper wire, you get the bare color. So it's just bare wire. eBay, that's good too. Thanks, Jennifer. And hello. Yeah, I mean, because I've got those accounts, I generally buy from there and don't really look other places. But I think if you do a Google search, you can find a lot of things. Sometimes you can find this in hardware stores, as long as you might not get 18 gauge, but they should have bare copper wire for electricians or whatever. So they might have it. Hi, Pat. Thank you. Yeah, so anytime you're in doubt, I would do a Google search. I use Google a lot to find out things, but sometimes it doesn't work out too well, but most of the time you can find resources. Okay, so I'm going to just feed this. And here's the thing with this too, you don't want to uh, give it so much pressure. You'll find out, okay, when you are doing this, you'll find out if you're pushing it too hard, the wire will just break. You have to give it a decent, gets fed in this way. I always have to figure these things out. I want it to make sure it goes the right way. Nope, it's going that way. I should do this before I get on camera. Okay, well, I guess I have to do it towards me. So I just put the wire in right here, and I'm just going to turn the key, and it starts to, it kind of moves a little bit, moves around a little bit, only because I'm not folding it as tight as I could, but I don't want to break it. So here's what it looks like when it's gone through the ringer. That's a good example of that phrase. Put it back in here. Turn it more. Goes by real quick. And there I have a whole piece of corrugated wire. It's fun. It's fun stuff. And I'm sure you could do lots of different things with this. Use it in many different applications, soldering it onto things. You could do this with silver wire too, and add it to pendants and different things for decoration. Okay. All right. Judith says, I get rolls of 18 gauge bare copper wire in a roll at Home Depot and Lowe's. They also have much thicker grounding copper as well. You can roll it and create copper, create things, copper cups with grounding wire. Very good to know. Thank you, Judith. Donna says, I have a tube ringer. I've had a tube ringer forever. Where'd your comment go? And it was advertised as being a toothpaste, not jewelry making. It was very inexpensive and worked just fine. Well, see, that's the thing. Maybe you don't have to spend the big bucks for some of these things. I just wanted to say that in case you bought a lesser, expensive item and it didn't work well. I hate to recommend things that I haven't used, just because you just never know. All right. Hi, Sandy. Okay, Wanda says she buys her heavier gauge by the foot at Home Depot as well. Okay, good to know. Thank you for sharing those ideas. Okay, so once you get your wire crimped, then you can decide how you want to place it on your piece. And what I did for the eggs to do, let's see, to do this, I just cut two pieces. I laid the wire strip across here, and then just marked it with a Sharpie where I wanted to cut it. This one's just a little bit larger than this one, and you just place it however you want. I did 3 wires on this one. You can do whatever you want. It's just I was just kind of playing around with this to see what I would get. This one I did like a wheel of spokes in a wheel or something. That's a little bit different there with the jump ring in the center. And one just vertically, just plain by itself with some little enamel dots. And this one was, it's just jump rings, the copper jump rings. And I filled each of the jump rings with enamel. And to do that, I used a line sifter. This is an enamel line sifter, if you're not familiar. They sell these in a couple of hole sizes. And the one hole, I think it might be 3/32. It's a little bit too big. The enamel just kind of like poured through. This is a 1/16 hole, I believe. And I have much better control with this too. So as far as my enamel resources are going to go, I'm going to put a link to Jean Van Brederode's Enamel Warehouse Etsy shop. She's one of our group members and a great gal. She's got lots of enamel products and tools and things. So you can check with her after the demo if you need these things, because she's got everything you need. What else? Okay. I'm looking at the comments here to see if I'm missing anything. Okay. Okay, this stuff is good to know. Thank you for posting this stuff. Okay. All right. So you can design them however your mind, whichever way it goes. All right. Now we'll get down to, so you saw the the tube crimper. That's fun. And then I've got a little package of some 4mm jump rings, copper jump rings. You can use whatever size you want. Just make sure they're solid copper. I always have these guys on hand, so that's what I'm using. All right, let me turn the camera down. And then we'll get cooking. All right. Get some of this stuff out of the way that I don't need anymore. All right. So I'm going to use my metal shears and kind of, before I decorate anything, I'm going to show you the immersion method, because what I want is an enamel surface already before I start building anything. All right, so I'm going to do these eggs. Okay, I'm going to build these eggs. Mary, it could be silver too, but copper is much less expensive, and the copper kind of it gets, well, some of it's going to get covered up with enamel, but it's just, I think, more of an expense thing, and not all metals, not all enamels won't all stick to all metals. So that's the reason that I use a lot of copper. All right, now let me move. Let's see how I'm going to do this. Because I don't want to burn the camera or my phone. All right, so let's see. So I have a heat-proof surface on my table. And I also have a can of butane with a torch head. I have this kind. And I also use my jumbo butane, sort of like a micro torch, but not exactly. A little heavier duty than a micro torch. And my husband built me this little container holder for the torch so it doesn't fall over when I'm torching, for safety's sake. I've got to get set up in the right way here for the camera. This does not look good. I've got my jar of water right here. And generally I keep things that I need to get to with my right hand on the right side of me. Let me get this chair out of the way because that is messing me up. Okay. move things out of the way so I have more room. All right. I'm going to use my tripod later, so I'll put this away. And right now, all I'm doing is um, doing the first coat with the immersion method. With the immersion method, you need your enamel in containers, like tins or jars, glass jars. And it also requires quite a bit of enamel. I use this method a lot, so all my enamels are stored this way. But when you do the immersion method, you plunge your piece into your hot piece into the enamel, and it requires enough enamel so that you can coat all sides of it without difficulty. Now, you don't have to have as much as I have in this jar, but you still need to have probably a half inch or so to work well with this. So I'm going to keep the enamel tin in my non-dominant hand. I've got my mandrel in my dominant hand, and then I'm going to hopefully show you as we go here. I've got my pieces of copper ready to go. I have my pliers in case I drop anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the torch, put my piece of metal, my copper shape, with the back side of the piece. Sometimes it's hard to tell with copper or with metal in general, but I honestly think there's a front and a back, even though it's all, I don't know, that might be me, but it just looks different to me. Or maybe it's just the way it was cut when it's up on a pancake die. I'm not really sure. But I'm going to hang my piece on this mandrel, and I'm going to heat it up. I have the flame. I'm going to heat it up till it's red hot. And then as soon as it's all red hot, then I'm going to plunge it into the enamel and kind of dredge it in there so that it gets all the surfaces, front, back, sides, all of it gets nice and heated. Out of the way too. Okay, so I think I'm ready to go. Okay. Another neat thing, thank you for asking that, Wendy, is you don't have to clean your metal when you are doing the torch firing. If you had Sharpie marker on it, or if you had, I don't know, just a stain of something, or well, you wouldn't have rust, but if it looks kind of gunky, not super gunky, but a little bit, it burns off. So that's another beauty of torch firing. And like I said, you get the front and the back coat all at the same time. So you don't have to counter enamel, because you essentially are. All right, so I'll show you one, and then I'll stop and answer any questions, and we'll go from there. Okay, so what I did right there at the end is after I dropped it off of the mandrel onto the heat-proof surface, I reheated the mandrel because there's enamel that gets stuck on here. So I reheated the enamel and then I plunged it in the water and all the excess um, enamel cracks off of the mandrel. Okay. And then I set the piece on a bench block just to cool it off quicker. Okay. So the color comes up a little bit better as it cools. Now let me look at questions or comments. I'm going to look at those on my laptop because it's easier to read without me looking cross-eyed while I'm looking. Okay. Lynn Moore. Hello, Lynn. Yes, I did buy the containers separately, and I have probably a link for those too. I just have to look for it. But yeah, I did get them. Okay, I went. Okay. Okay. Yes, I was. Yeah, you can't. I was not talking while I was doing that because the sound of the torch kind of like makes it impossible for me to be heard. So that's why I thought I'd catch up with you once I was done. Yes, Wendy, this was an opaque for the base. If I'm going to do a transparent, then I would dip it first in like a white or an off-white, and uh, then dip it into the transparent powders. The rod does not get hot uh, where you're holding it. It gets really hot up here. Uh, and that's why you never lay down the uh, the mandrel after you've removed your piece. Never just lay it down. Make sure that you put it right into the water because I can guarantee you that you will pick up the hot end by accident. And I have done that several times, and it hurts. It hurts. That's the bottom line. It hurts. So make sure, discipline yourself to crack off that extra enamel that's on here first, and then plunge it into the jar of water. So that way that does not happen. Um, okay. So the brand of the torch head, it's I got it on Amazon and there's a bunch of them, but I'm going to put a link for this particular one um, in the in the post when I post the link for the handout. I'll have the links for all these different things. And for the most part, they're all things that I've used or they're very close to what I've used. So um, hopefully that will you'll be able to get the proper things. There were a lot of enameling things, like I said earlier, that well, I didn't say that, and Amazon doesn't carry. But Jean Van Brederode does at Enamel Warehouse, and you can get directly from her. And also, you know, if I'm using something that maybe she doesn't have in stock, you could just send her a message and see if she could get it in stock. So she's very easy to work with. Hey, Patty. Hi, Ruth. Listen, I enjoy doing this. You know, it's kind of sometimes it's a shit show, but you know, I enjoy doing it. So if you can put up with my quirkiness, uh, I do have some valuable things that I'm happy to share with you. Okay, so once your piece is cool, which it is already because it was on the block, on the stainless steel block, I'm going to decorate this now, and then, well, first I would enamel all the pieces. If you want me to see doing another one, I can do that as well. But that's what I would normally do is do the first coats of everything on the torch with the immersion method first. And then I'll decorate, and then I'll put everything on top of a trivet, on top of a tripod, and we'll torch from underneath. And let's see here. Thank you, Patty. I love you. Good, good. I'm happy. I'm happy I entertain you. Okay. So that's what I would do. I would do all my pieces in enamel first with the immersion method, and then I move on to the decoration part. You will need something to hold down your copper wire and your enamel, and Klyr-fire is a solution that is sold specifically for enameling, but I've been told that you can use hairspray as well. I have not ever done that, but I know people do, and I don't know if there's a particular brand, or I would imagine a pump rather than an aerosol, um, but anything to kind of make the things stick on your piece. Wonderful. Hey, Patty. Thank you very much. Patty's securing our egg-shaped pancake dies at Potter USA as we speak. Okay, so let me move the camera down. Are the rods you're using to hold the egg from your glass materials or something you can buy? Actually, you can. And what I did was I went to a welding supply store, and the the rods come like in a tube. I don't know, maybe 3 foot long tube, something like that. You get the right size, and then you have to cut them down like with a wire cutter, like a heavy duty. Don't use your jewelry tools for that. And you can cut them down to probably 9 to 12 inches. Let's see, what is this? This is 10 inches. Just a safe enough distance. You don't want it too long, way far out, but you don't want them too short either, so that you're not too close to the fire. So that can be done at welding supply stores too. So, but you have to get the little thin ones. That there's super skinny ones. There's, I think, even smaller than the 1/16. But they're really they're kind of flimsy, but they're really good if you buy filigree beads to enamel. They're actually called, they're iron beads. I've worked with them many times when I was doing classes, enameling classes, and you need the extra skinny mandrel to fit into the holes that these beads have. So, but if you're doing copper beads, enamel copper beads, this 1/16 fits fine in the copper holes. Hi, Mary. Hi, Lucy. Hey, Dottie. Okay, I want to make sure I say hi to everybody. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera down, and I will show you what I do. All right. I have a little container with my little floral wafers, and I have some pieces of corrugated wire that I already had cut. Move my hand out of the way. So these little floral wafers are very small, and that's good because they melt quickly. You want to make sure when you buy the package of floral wafers, they're not always cut very precisely, and some of the longer pieces will take much longer to melt than the really tiny pieces naturally. So I try to stick with the same, pretty much the same thickness on one piece, so I'm not like frying part of the enamel to make sure that the thicker millefiori or the floral wafer will melt. So first thing I want to do is figure out, oh, I must have had some paste solder on something. I would figure out the wire sizes, which I did already on this, but you would just kind of finger bend the wire uh, to shape it if you want to do that, if you want to have it a little bit curvy. Okay. And then I would take my marker and mark where I want to cut that wire. I'm going to do that with it. Okay. So that's one. I'm going to do one like that, and then I'll do one with jump rings. But okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is take these off, and I'm going to spray a light coat of the Klyr-fire on there. That will help keep these things in place. All right. So then I will, because this one I'll do with some little floral wafers. One got away from me. And just put a little variety on here. Just lay them down. That's a thick one. And a lot of these are not perfect, which is kind of sad, but actually when they melt, they don't look so bad, even if they're not uh, perfectly round or a little uneven, or some of them even broken. Doesn't matter that much after they kind of spread out a little bit. Even the teeniest tiny ones, they look good when they're melted. This is all just a matter of choice. Okay, so that's, I'm going to call that good right there. Yeah, Patty, I don't know how they cut these things. I really don't. I don't. I, I should have, because I'm stupid here. Oh, it's forgetting a tool that I have. There's this other thing from Eurotool that you can do your piece right on top of, and then you can move it without jittery hands. So I'm going to move that over to my trivet here. This is good if you're, getting up and walking and carrying it someplace. I'm going to move this to my trivet. But I forgot one other important thing. Excuse me just a minute. Okay. Now, I don't know how well this works, but I've been told that if you put chalk, just plain old sidewalk chalk or uh, blackboard chalk on your trivet, it helps against having enamel stick to it. Okay, so then I'm going to place that on my trivet, and that'll be ready to go when I'm ready. Okay, now on this one, I will do Joan. Hello, by the way. Joan, I got the enamel wafers either from Thompson Enamel or Enamel Warehouse on Etsy. They are not cheap, but you can get a lot of use out of them. Nothing's cheap anymore. You know, I always say, well, they're not cheap. Well, everything's expensive, in my opinion. It's just the way things have gotten. But a lot of times it's true, you get what you pay for too. So I'm going to close these jump rings. These already happen to have patinaed for another project, but it doesn't matter. That'll just burn right off. So I'm going to close those up. And this is however many you want or whatever you want to do with them. It's totally up to you how you design your piece. All right, so for this one, I'm going to use my line sifter. I won't be using the corrugated wire. I could if I wanted to incorporate that into the design, but I'm not going to on this one. What do I want to do? Maybe that. Maybe I'll try to make like a little flower. Okay, so what I need to do first, um, these are copper jump rings. You can use sterling. I've never have, but I know you can enamel with sterling. No, not sterling, fine silver. But I think you'd annihilate them. I'm not really sure. It's fine silver, not sterling. All right, so now I need my colors, my enamel colors. This color, Debbie, this is robin's egg blue, which is kind of a bluish green to me. All right, so I'm going to pick opaque colors. And let's see, I've got uh, 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 five colors, or five rings, I mean. So I'm going to get five colors here, enamel colors. If you get these lids or these tins, make sure that you write the name on your tin, the name and the product number on the bottom of the tin and also on the lid. So that way you put them back on the right cans. That was a Barbara Lewis tip. It's been very handy. So I have all my colors that I'm going to use, and now I'm going to lay down some Klyr-fire on the piece. You don't want too much because you want it to be dry, or at least mostly dry, when you fire it. May not be centered quite right. All right. Still not centered. I have jittery hands anymore. And I didn't have coffee or anything like that. It's just part of getting old, I guess. I blame everything on that. Perseverance. They'll probably still move. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I've got my line sifter. And the thing with these, you have to be really careful. I'm going to hold on to the line sifter. And you scratch, there's like a little corrugated area. And you scratch the enamel. It kind of comes out, you know, like in a little pile. But you scratch it with your fingernail. All right. And then I'm going to dump that color back in the jar. And then I guess I'll use some lemon yellow in the center. Scratching that. Okay, put that back in there. Take some bitter green. Make sure you dump it in the right container, because it's a mess if you don't. Okay, now I'm going to take some foxglove purple. And sky blue. I'm not sure if that's going to show up very well on this robin's egg blue, but we'll find out. Oh, I need one more color. Duh. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Have lichen green. Okay, so I have all my colors in there. I better not mess with it as I proceed to mess with it. Okay, so that's on there. And there again, I didn't put that on top of here, but it should be okay. All right, let me tell you one thing. If you get Um, oh, that's a good idea, Jennifer. I will do that. Um, if you get containers for your enamels, I would highly recommend getting the larger size. I think this is an 8-ounce size opposed to a 4-ounce size, because if you're doing larger pieces by the immersion method, you need to clear your piece in this little jar. Okay, so it's just easier if you have a larger jar. I'm not telling you you have to do that. I'm just, from experience, I've learned it's better. It looks like you have more enamel, or let's say that you don't have to put as much enamel in here so that you can dredge it because it's a smaller container. But if you want to do like a 1.5-inch disc or something that's an odd shape, you're going to have a harder time getting it in there. Just that's just a little tidbit thrown in there. All right, so Jennifer suggested putting a little piece of corrugated wire on the bottom of that little flower. So I'm going to try doing that. Hi, Lynn. Yes. Um, you can dome your pieces. You do all your work first. Any kind of doming, well, that's really probably all you, or making your holes. You do that stuff all first before you torch fire, because you'll crack everything off if you don't. So I've done many pieces and it works out fine. It works out just fine if you pre fix the metal. Okay. All right. So let's go back here and find a little piece of corrugated wire and see. Yeah, it won't take much. Just a couple of little waves. That's probably still too much. Let me put a little bit of Klyr-fire. Still a little long. So I'm going to dip this into a little bit of Klyr-fire. Still just a hair too long. It's a great idea, Jennifer. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Cute. Patty, the COE, uh, I think they're 104s, but I'm not 100% sure. I know it's 80 mesh. Enamel for enameling comes a little bit different than for lamp working. So I know that there is a difference there. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and torch fire the first, not, yeah, torch fire the one with the Millefiori on here, and I'm going to You know, you just can't help but make a big mess when you're doing this stuff. So I'm using, this is another thing, I'm using a, I think it's a 9-inch torch, tripod. It's the taller one of the two. There's two different sizes available. And I'm using the taller one. You want to make sure if you don't have a tripod to get the taller one. You can work around with the shorter one if you want to build it up on, some blocks of, bricks or something like that. But it's easier to get your torch head under it if you have a taller piece. So if, let's see here. Oh, I wanted to mention too, this is another option in decorating. If you have stencils, these are put out by Eurotool. They're acrylic stencils, and you can decorate your enamel pieces with these too. You can put this down on your copper disc once it's already got its base coat on there, and then you can add little designs with these stencils. Now, this particular trivet I got from Pearly Carpel. She's on Etsy, and these trivets fit right inside of these tripods. If you don't have that kind, you will have to put a wire. It's not mesh, but it's a woven wire rack that you put on top of the tripod, and then you put your trivet on top. When you buy the trivet, it comes with two wire mesh pieces that you put on top of here. But if you're burning underneath, with a high flame torch, you're going to burn through those. They're very, very thin. They're not meant for this kind of job. So you'd have to get the heavy duty wire racks. I know Jean sells those too. So that would be the next option with a traditional 3-point or 4-point little trivet. Okay, so now I'm going to bring my torch underneath here, and I'm going to use my other torch here. And I'm just going to keep that heat on here. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but hopefully well enough. Okay. Okay. As soon as you see your thickest piece of the floral wafers has melted, then you're done. You can see that there's a gloss, a shine across the top of the enamel so it's all fired. The copper turns dark, kind of black. That's okay. That's supposed to happen. Uh, I'll be able to clean that off without any problem. Where's my utility bag? So I'm going to take this off and put this on the steel block to cool off. The colors will come out real nice as it cools. Okay. Now I'm going to put the other piece on. Ideally, I should have another trivet, and I do, but it's just not here, to put the next piece on. And without burning yourself. Okay, that's a miracle. Okay, so that's on. All right. So I'll go ahead and do this one now. Okay, so all the enamel powder has melted. Okay. Give that a minute to cool down. Oh, colors are coming out nice. This one's already cool. The first one. All right. So the next thing I would do is I would just gently brass brush. You do or you don't have to. Like it's all that little flaky stuff off. But the thing that really works good is a white wheel. I'll show you that. A white rubber wheel with grit in it. Just a white wheel like this. And I'm going to go over the copper. Where am I here? I would highly suggest that you wear a dust mask when you're doing this. I'm not, because I'm just doing this little bit and I'm stupid. I really should have that on. Okay. That cleans up really nicely. Just make sure that you don't enamel with that wheel. Lost my connection there for a minute. Okay, see how you guys having trouble on your end? Because I'm freezing over here. The camera, I mean, not me. Okay, so that's the one. That came out kind of cute. All right, so that's that. This one's done. Now, if you looked closely, I don't think you can see that online here, you would see all the flakes from that copper, and that'll just rinse right off. You take it off with the brass brush. Now, I'm talking a real soft brass brush, not a stiff brush. Okay. So now I'm just going to polish those up. And try to stay just on the copper. There's that one. Cutie patootie. So that's what we did today. Nice and enamel, then I just hang it. Oh, but the next thing I would do, this is me, you don't have to do it. I like to clean the edge all the way around my pieces, which means you're going to see the shiny copper all the way around. I think it's a very nice way to finish your piece. You could conceivably use that white wheel that I just did. It's messy, but it's doable. A belt sander. You'd need water though. You need water to, if you're going to use that belt sander to clean that up. This I definitely would wear a face mask and eye protection. I actually use a shield when I do this because this is very messy if you do this with a white wheel. But it finishes the pieces off very, I don't know, nicer, I think, to have that copper line all the way around it. Probably can't really tell from here, but it just is a nicer look. So I have two with the little jump rings. So yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff you can do, just if you can imagine it, and I don't know if it's practical, whatever. There's other designs that you could definitely make. And I gotta say, I'm not sure about the chalk. Like, a couple sides are great, but I also feel a little roughness on this one. But there again, I take that white wheel and just knock that off. So that's an easy fix. Suni, I used on these particular pendants, I used 20 gauge copper. and I used the pancake die in the press to cut them out. But if I was cutting them by hand, I probably would use 22 because it's a little bit easier on your hands, to cut with the shears. So, that's up to you. And the wire, the corrugated wire I used is 18 gauge, and it's all solid copper, that and the jump rings too. As I mentioned before, if you don't use solid copper, um, you're going to burn it up, melt it, whatever. All right, so I have a handout that I'm going to post, and I have references, some links, and you. Oh, and again, for anybody that didn't hear, Potter USA is going to make a series, like small, medium, large, possibly extra large, of the egg shapes. So that way, there's, you know, it's exactly an egg shape. This is more of a teardrop shape, but it's all I had. Unless you hand draw it out and cut them. So I have to watch the replay again for the corrugation, because I do show all of that earlier in the demo. So you might want to pick that up. So yeah, I'm glad you guys were able to join me. I see I'm having some connection problems here. I hope you're not having them on your end. I hate when that happens. So I don't know, like I always say that. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but it's probably going to be a mixed media project. I've been working a lot with air dried clay lately. I've really been having a lot of fun with that. So maybe I'll do something like that next time. Not sure. I can always use your suggestions though, if you have any uh, to send along. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. You can watch the replay either here or on my YouTube channel. I'll post a link to the YouTube channel too, so in case any of new people don't know that there is a YouTube channel. And I'm really glad I did that a long time ago, because Facebook is going to be phasing out the videos. So I think it's in June, sometime in June, and then you'll no longer be able to watch replays through Facebook. So you'll have to go to YouTube to see any of those. Oh, thank you, Pat. I do like variety. I really do. And, it may not appeal to everybody, but it's what I like to do. So hopefully, you'll enjoy them, or, just look through something else. I've got like 150 demos already. So hopefully there's other things that you'd be interested in. So, yeah, I will see you in 2 weeks. If you make any of these things, let me know, or post them in the group, on the group page, and share with everybody else. And I'll see you guys later. Thanks for being with me.